Hey, what's up, everybody? This is C3 Films. I'm Chris, and this is.
Cheryl.
And today we're going to be talking about the movie Soul. It just came out on Christmas, so spoiler alert. And without anything else, let's go ahead and get right into it. Like, real quick, what did you think, Cheryl? What did you think about this movie?
I tried really hard not to cry at the end because it wasn't sad, but it gave me the feels and like it was just I kind of expected what happened just based off of like the fact that it's Pixar and the idea that he's a soul, and you can
Mm-hmm.
tell that he is a soul because of the way that he looks and stuff. So I like I knew like from the beginning that he was gonna end up dying. I just didn't know it was gonna happen that fast, and I wasn't sure how it was gonna end. And so it did kind of take me on a journey. It was pretty simple. I think
Mm-hmm.
the film was a lot more simple than I thought, but it was so full of meaningful moments. So I really
Right.
enjoyed it unexpectedly. Really enjoyed
Yeah.
it.
So I'm not gonna lie. When you said that we were gonna watch Soul, I literally had no emotion towards it. I was just like, okay, whatever. It's another movie. We're gonna watch it. I'll either like it or I won't, and that'll be the end of it. But I had no attachment to it, and I actually didn't even. I saw the trailer for it like a year ago, and I was very happy that I didn't remember anything in the trailer except for the fact that he dies. Because that happens pretty quickly in the movie. And then from that moment on, I'm like, okay, I kind of think I know where this movie is going to go. But my expectation was that when he died, it would just be the entire movie would be about just getting back to Earth. Um, and so by the time I think it was like at the 30-minute mark, they were back on Earth. It was kind of like when we watched Better Watch Out, where like at 30 minutes, I'm sitting here looking at the clock like we still have another hour and some change left in this movie. What's gonna happen? I was very surprised that they went back to Earth so quickly. Like, were you expecting for him to like actually come back to life and then for the souls to be flipped? Because that caught me completely off guard.
I did not expect at all for them to go back that fast either. I thought the whole thing was gonna happen in the afterworld or like the beginning
Right?
world or and such. Cause and I kind of liked it there. It was cool with
Mm-hmm.
Jerry and Jerry and
And
Jerry and
Terry,
Terry. It was good.
give that man an award. He earned it himself.
He requested it.
He requested it.
But yeah, I thought but I also wasn't surprised when they did go back to Earth, because then I was like, oh, okay, so now they're gonna have to figure out how to get out of this mess. Classic, journey. So, it didn't really matter to me if they were gonna go back to Earth and do the whole movie in Earth, or if they were gonna have it in the afterworld. I was like, either way, it just seems like they already set it up to have for us to know there's these two individuals that have issues and they're gonna need to work it out. They're two different issues
Yeah.
and they're gonna work it out. And somehow they're going to have to work it out together because they've been stuck together at the very beginning. It's just all been set up. It's just how are they gonna do
Yeah.
it?
For sure, and it's definitely a classic formula, with a little bit of an interesting take on it. I I also should just come out and straight up say that I loved this movie. Like, for someone that came into it with no emotions and no attachments to it whatsoever, I found myself like laughing. I found myself getting teary eyed at certain parts, and just it's like, wow, Pixar, you were really good at like manipulating my emotions. Um, but I also just thought that there was a lot that they did that was very creative, because when they were in the soul world, I got this feeling kind of similar to the feeling I got when I watched Inside Out, where there's a lot of creative takes on these things that are very normal, for us in our everyday lives, and how this movie kind of conceptualizes it down to like, oh, the personalities. You guys are gonna be the loners, and you guys are gonna be the rebellious wallflowers, or you guys are gonna be the megalomaniacs, and it's not gonna be our problem. That's Earth's problem. Like, it's I found myself really enjoying their take on pre-life and the afterlife, although their take on the afterlife is kind of scary to me too, where it basically just seems like when you go to the afterlife, I don't know why it felt like you were just going into a giant bug zapper.
Right. The great beyond.
Right? I'm sorry, that terrified me. I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it like Joe. Like, wait a second, is my conscience gonna go away? Like, what is happening? I don't want any of that. Although I do find it a little bit surprising that in all the centuries and all the time that this has been a thing, that this has only happened once, where somebody has tried to get back in their body on Earth. That was like, a stretch, but
Terry's
fine.
really good at his job.
You know
That's
what?
why he got the award.
That's true. You could say he's not. That's right, and he's not terrible at his job.
No, no. I don't want friends on the show. Can we start this over?
It's
Let's do a take two.
Nope. We going. We're in there. Let's go. But yeah, like I really enjoyed how they personified all these different like aspects of what it means and what it takes to get to Earth, and even the message about like what a spark is, and the difference between being in the zone and loving your passion versus being obsessed, and how it turns you into two different people. And so maybe let me know your opinion on this, but I was very surprised by how adult the overall movie ended up being, as far as like kind of themes and concepts, because literally there is a point when they are straight up saying like, why do you sound like a 40-year-old white woman, or am I an HE double hockey sticks? And all the children soldiers start going, hell. I'm like, this is definitely a Pixar movie and not a Disney movie.
Yeah, it's not. It like you would think, like it looks like it's for kids because like they're so freaking cute. Like even Joe as a soul is like super cute. Like I would have that little doll in my room if like, I mean obviously I'm a stuffed animal person, but
obviously, naturally.
But like it would be so cute to have a little Joe with his hat and glasses. And I wrote down like it reminded me a lot of like video games, like even for like the music and stuff. Like that's why I felt like, oh yeah, like it's for kids and stuff. Like I don't know if you've ever played Ibanob, but it reminded me a lot of Ibanob. You should check that out. It's really fun.
Yeah, I haven't played that.
But even like the part where like they have the souls and stuff, and just like the sound design reminded me a lot of Kingdom Hearts, with like the Heartless coming out, and then they have to fight the Heartless and stuff. Like it just,
I can see that.
I felt like I was in a game world because it was so clean. But you're right. I am trailing a little bit. but yeah, I didn't think it was for kids. I mean, it could be for kids. It's definitely in that realm, but it is a very adult film.
Yeah, I mean, well, the concepts are very adult, and like even some of the jokes and references that they're making, like are things that you only understand after you've lived life a little bit, because there's a point I think where something rolls over a soul in the afterlife, and they literally say, we don't crush souls here, that's what Earth is for. And I was like, oh, too real. I can't even laugh because it just hurts. It just like, why you gotta call me out like that?
Like you literally just crushed my soul.
You know, exactly though. So yeah, and the characters, you know, like I didn't realize that it was Tina Fey that did 22 at first. I just knew that after they called it out that it was a middle-aged white woman in her 40s that be the voice since they specifically called it out. Um,
I
and
actually
so, but
paused to look it up. I was like, "Who is this voice?" And I was like,
right,
"Oh, Tina Fey. Nice. Okay."
and then when you see it's Tina Fey, you're like, of course it's Tina Fey, and it's so good. And then like when you realize that it's Tina Fey, and in the context of the story, like you're talking to 22, and 22 is just saying, "Well, I could have any voice, but I choose this voice because it's the most annoying." Beautiful. I love it. It's mwah. Perfect. So yeah, and I just thought it was really interesting that the character of 22, the whole point was that 22 didn't want to live life at all, and the message or like the story behind 22 felt like somebody who was just ambivalent towards everything, which is something that usually that you would expect to happen once you've lived a little bit and experienced like things that like hurt you or whatever. You become ambivalent, but they were just ambivalent towards everything and had no desire to live life. And it's interesting because it's almost like 22 had already lived life to become this way. But the flip of it was that 22 needed to live life to learn why life was worth living. And that's like one of the coolest things about the movie.
Right. And in contrast, it was like Joe had to die to realize, like, to learn that he hasn't lived, even though he had life. So,
Yeah, so that was another part of the movie that was like a little too real for me when Joe was going through his life and looking at all the things that he did and it really didn't amount to much, and he's like and he has that realization of like, wow, I didn't do anything. Like, not gonna lie, there was a moment where I was thinking to myself, wow, if I was to die right now and to like have that same thing happen, how insignificant would my life look? Despite the fact that I have done some cool things, like that movie in that moment called attention to my own life and choices to a point, especially because we're also two people that are artistic that went to school for artistic goals and things like that. And Joe is a musician where like we went to school for film, and the there are similar circumstances, similar struggles with each of those kind of occupations when you're going for it. It sounds like Joe's also a freelancer. So see, like taking that all into account, I'm looking at it like, oh shoot, is Joe gonna be me when I'm 40? I don't know how I feel about this movie. I'm feeling like it's calling me out. So, but I did appreciate the fact that at the end it was because it tried to create a difference between passion and obsession, and understanding that even if you like a thing, for instance, for like when Joe's at the barber shop and he's trying to tell 22 that when you talk to the barber, we only talk about jazz. But when 22 takes the time to actually ask the guy about his life, the guy responds with, yeah, I appreciate this, one of the best conversations we ever had. And when 22 asks, well, why didn't we have this conversation before? The guy says, well, you only ever wanted to talk about jazz, and you never asked.
mhm.
But I'm glad that you did now. And it just goes to show that it is okay to have a passion, but that passion, it's important to not let it become an obsession that stops you from interacting and engaging with the people around you, because Joe was ended up being a very selfish character through most of this movie.
Yeah. I mean, I think, like, I even wrote down, like, this movie is about the meaning of life. And just really,
Mm-hmm.
like, I guess teaching us that we have to really appreciate the moments that we have. Like, it's not about like where you're going or getting to where you're going, but appreciating all the moments that you take to get there. Because, like, well, what if you don't get there? Right?
Right.
Are you going to be happy like if you die tomorrow because you didn't achieve your goal, or are you going to be happy because up until that point you lived your life to the fullest?
Yeah. No, it's really true. And Joe, yeah, Joe's character arc was meant to Joe and 22 juxtaposed beside each other were meant to embody that idea. And 22, I love the fact that 22 spark is simply the joy of living, because when we're in the moment and we're trying to find what her spark is, and there's all these seemingly random things, and they never expressly say to you that this is her spark, but the I at least my reading of it was that it was the pure joy of being that was that was 22 spark for wanting to live in the first place. And because I think Joe even says it when 22 is talking about all the things that could be her spark, where she's saying, oh, maybe I could be a sky watcher, or maybe I could be a walker, I'm really good at that. And Joe flippantly just dismissing it as, well, that's just living. And but that's the thing that inspires her. And that's the thing that I think the movie is trying to teach or show all of us, is that the joy of living comes from actually living, from the fact that we are fortunate enough to even be here in the first place. And that's such a beautiful message that I can't help but like just get behind and cheer, you know?
Yeah, I think it does say a lot of important stuff, and I can't remember the quote exactly, but Dorothea tells Joe towards the end the story about the
The
fish
fish.
and how the fish, wants to go to the ocean. Like, where do I find the ocean?
Hmm.
And then I forget who the fish is talking to, but they're like, I mean, you're in it. You're in the
Right.
ocean, and then the fish is like, but it's just water. But if like it is what it is, like that's what the ocean is. Like that's what life is. You're in it. Like you're looking for something that you already have, which is your life, and you just have to know that like the idea of the ocean, the idea of life and your purpose is some grandeur imagination that you forget that it's not like it's just an idea,
Right.
right? I mean, like yeah, you could achieve your goals and everything, but the what?
Right. And speaking of Dorothea, real quick, can we just, the moment Dorothea came on screen and started talking, I looked to my roommate and said, that's Angela Bassett. I know that's Angela Bassett. Angela Bassett has such a distinct, like, voice and cadence to the way that she speaks. There's no way this is anybody but Angela Bassett. And after finishing the movie and seeing that it was Angela Bassett, I have to say I was very, very pleased to with her voice work in this movie. She was a great character. She was I was angry at her for at the beginning for not wanting to like hire Joe simply because she saw him in a hospital gown. Like, why why you gonna give me some mess? I mean, I came from the hospital. I almost died. I fell down a manhole. What do you want from me? So that's enough reason to not let me come in and play my set with you. Um, but yeah, but besides that, the even I always remember one of the things that stuck out to me about a movie like Inside Out was two things. It was Bing Bong, the imaginary friend, and what happens to imaginary friends and why we forget about them. The way that they kind of personified that in that movie, but then also how there was a literal train of thought running around running around the place, and then it falls off the track, and it's like, oh, I lost my train of thought. And I always thought that that was like a clever way of like expressing that. And in this movie, it was that whole thing of like when you're in the zone. And I was like, okay, I can relate to that as a writer. I'm like in there and I'm doing it and I'm doing a thing and it feels amazing and it's awesome. I lose myself, and that's you being in the zone. And it's so funny that you have all these gurus or these people that are very spiritual that are in the zone, and then the one person that's in Berkeley, California, shout out to Berkeley, by the way, that was amazing, that are spiritual enough to like be in this zone and recognize it to be true and can access it, but then also still remember their like what happens there in their regular everyday life. Like that was pretty fantastical, but I thought it was a neat way of approaching it.
Yeah, I definitely thought it was a cool mechanic, and um, I mean we do it all the time, right? I
Hmm.
really like the character for the guy who like spins the sign as his job.
Yeah.
That was just like a really good comic relief. kidnap that guy, and I was like, oh, all his problems are gonna be solved, but then it ends up him like going too fast, and then he ends up in the cat. Which is genius, by the way, because then he gets to see, like, he gets to live his life through the eyes of a cat. Someone outside, other than
Point.
himself, right?
He gets to see himself and know how he would respond in a situation, but see how 22 is being met with her success, responding in a different way. And artistically, by the way, I love the fact that when he did talk to his mom, that they did that kind of pan, and instead of doing the whole thing with the cat on the shoulder saying it and then having 22 repeat it, it actually just ended up being his words. And that was just a very, very cool scene to me. Can I also say that when they did that scene with the cat where Joe shows up in that cat and says, "Why did I turn up in a cat?" And then they cut to the like escalator or the rampway to the great beyond, and the cat's
And the
just
cat
sitting there
was
like,
there.
meow. I I nearly fell out of my chair.
But very good question is how the cat soul got back into the cat afterwards.
Yep, and that's what I was gonna bring up too. Just how are you still alive? Like the moment that Joe's soul got ripped from that cat. I'm sorry,
I think
Pixar.
the
That
cat's
cat should have
supposed
been
to be
dead.
dead. But they can't do that to the kid. You can't
Nah,
kill the
man.
cat, and you can't kill animals in a movie.
Nah, we get real up in here. We get real. The truth is that cat was already dead. It just got It just got its body taken around for a spin for a little bit. But that
Right.
cat was
He already
done,
went to the great beyond.
right? So that was the one part of the movie that I felt was like not as consistent as the rest of this movie, but
Right.
I'll allow it
Yeah,
because
right. Because everything
I
else
was.
was good.
Because everything else is good. Plus, I'm not gonna lie. When I first saw the movie, when I first started in the movie, the first thing I said to myself was, "He's gonna die by the end of this. He's not gonna get to come back." So let me prepare myself just in case I start getting like attached or anything. But I am telling myself right now, he's he's not gonna get back to his body. That's not the point of the movie. The point of the movie is for him to realize that he missed out on certain things, but to encourage for he he didn't get to live life because he was so focused on other things, and 22 doesn't want to live life, um but they both get to learn the beauty of like what he missed and what 22 gets to experience. And I thought that was going to be the dichotomy of their relationship, and then by the end she would get to live, but then he would have to go to the great beyond. So I was already prepared. I was like, he gonna die. It's cool. We're ready. I'm zen about it. I'm this movie's gonna try to like get me to tear up and cry. Ain't gonna happen. I see you, Pixar. I recognize the game. I ain't gonna mess with it. But
No way, it's Pixar. They wouldn't let him die.
I yo, when I saw Toy Story 3, I thought those toys were done. That's all I'm gonna say. They made me believe those toys were done in Toy Story 3.
I was losing it in that movie. I cried so much. I was like, I can't believe, like, out of all, like, Toy Story movies, the third movie is making me weep like no
Right,
other.
ball, ugly cry.
I was like, I need to be by myself so that no one can see this happening.
Oh, that's why anytime I watch a Pixar movie, I watch it with the lights off, and I watch it with at least, we're in the interesting times right now where we already have to be 6 feet apart. That was always my rule in watching a Pixar movie. You get 6 feet apart from me. We have the lights off because I don't need anybody seeing that there are tears in my eyes when things happen. I'm sorry. You
But
can't like
the
you can't see me
point
from over
is,
there.
though, they didn't die. You
Yes,
thought they were gonna die, but they didn't die. So
right, and
you
then
just
that
proved my point.
leads. Right. And yes, and then the same point is proven by Joe. He gets a second chance at life. So that was great. It was nice. It's a beautiful way to end it because then like the thing that was going through my head was, but then what about Joe's mom? And like she's gonna be upset because and he just got this thing. Like, oh my gosh. But he gets to live life and he says, I'm going to enjoy every moment of it. And then it cuts to credits and it's just a beautiful way to end the movie. Um, I just, for me personally, and this isn't a knock on the movie. This is just like what I wanted personally. I wish that there was a way, like if even if it was like an after credit sequence, for him to be walking down the street and to meet some kid and to recognize the kid as 22 through her voice, her speech, whatever. Like even if it was like a little bit of a time skip, I kind of just wanted them to meet again in real life, in reality.
Right.
But I understand why that couldn't happen in the scope of this movie. But it was like kind of just that one last little bit of feel good that I wanted from the movie.
I think one thing that I thought was weird was they brought up this person, Lisa, but
Oh yeah, the love
we
interest they
never,
never talked to.
yeah, and like we never know like who this is and everything. I was like, they should probably have not even invented that character because we never see or interact with that person. So maybe it was like a
Yeah, it would
deleted scene or something.
maybe yeah. No, you're right. That seems a little weird. That might have made more sense if they got to have an interaction and it was clear that he wanted to do something like ask her on a date or something, but then just didn't because he was so focused on jazz. And then by the end of the movie, he finally picks up the phone to call her. But if they weren't going to do something like that, which I don't think they even needed to do anyway, because
Hmm.
the movie it works completely fine as is as far as structure, then they shouldn't have even mentioned her because there's no room for a love story like that in this movie. We get the point. The point was that he was so focused on doing this thing that he thought was the only reason he was alive that he actually missed out on living. So we don't need a love interest or anybody else to back that up. We get it just in the context and scope of everything else that's presented towards us. So yeah, I had forgotten about that. I'm not really sure why they brought it up.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it would have been fine if they didn't mention it. It was really unnecessary for them to even bring it up.
Hmm.
Unless they were gonna have this whole thing, like you said, but they didn't, and it worked without it. So it's just a little weird that they mentioned it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then what did you think about the how they personified Terry and the Jerrys as far as being these kind of 2D beings in a three-dimensional world that are simplified because it's the only thing our feeble human minds can like grasp.
Comprehend.
Yeah.
I liked them. I thought it was cool. At first I was like, uh oh, he's in trouble because like they're gonna be like, oh, you're not supposed to be here. You need to go to the great beyond. But they're just like, oh, you're a mentor. I thought they were. I don't know what it was about them, but I just thought they were cool.
I loved their design.
Yeah.
I legit loved being in that world and seeing how they built it. It was one of the coolest things in the movie to me.
I mean,
So
like I mentioned before, it was like clean, simple, and like almost like peaceful,
yes,
right?
yes, so true. And that reminds me of them the hall of everything where that's the point where you like try to find your spark because they take you and get you to do all these things. I was rolling when this kid 22 is has the fire hat on and is putting out the fire and literally looks at the screen and says, "The fire is so pretty. I kind of want to let it spread." Nope. I was like, "Bruh, that's her spark. She's an arsonist. Let her have this. Let her.
Oh my
Let her be her.
god.
You cannot cage her desires.
That's
What's wrong with
true.
you?"
That is true. She enjoyed that. Not firefighter, opposite.
Right? That was a spark. You know, I mean, for all I know, 22 is actually the personification of my cousin. Love you, cousin. I don't please don't set me on fire. But so everyone else knows, I get constantly threatened about being set on fire. So I'm pretty sure that 22 and my cousin are the same person.
Oh boy.
Just saying. Just saying. So if I ever die by arson, you know who it
We know who
was.
it is. Okay. Noted.
So but yeah, it is great. It's fun. It's a great movie. I'm happy with the ending. I ended the movie feeling amazing. I absolutely was so happy after finishing this movie. There's so much that we could talk about. There's so much that we can get lost in because there's a lot in this movie. Uh, I feel like we touched on just like the surface level of stuff or like the most basic things because there's even just the whole journey for 22 we could get lost in when she does get into Joe's body when she talks to the girl that wants to quit and then the girl doesn't quit because the girl realizes that it actually is something that she wants to do and then that for like works as 22's inspiration or even 22 having a pizza for the first time. There's so much that we could talk about, but we're not trying to talk about this forever. That being said, is there anything else that you want to bring up before we end here?
Nope. I mean, it just really makes you look at your life, and I just love that it reminds you to appreciate the life that you're living in. Carpe diem, right? You
Yeah.
gotta just try to be happy. Life is short. I mean, in the time that we're in right now, it's definitely, and it's hard. It's really hard, but you can do it.
Yeah, this was a great note, great movie, and great message to end 2020 on.
It sure is.
I it is such an inspirational and a reminder that yeah, like part of living life, or the the best part about living life is actually living. So we get to enjoy it however long it is. So let's make sure that we enjoy it for all it's worth, even the little things like having a slice of pizza. So that's that's gonna be it for us tonight, guys. Have you seen the movie? What do you think about it? Let us know down in the comments below. And while you're down there, give us a like, share, subscribe. But even if you don't, though, I've been Chris with C3 Films, and this has been
Cheryl, see you guys next time.